Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Chäos Noah. Und ja, Kozupis hat uns hier ausgebildet, die neue Schülerin. Und ja, und sie hat uns jetzt gerade ihr D-Sort gezeigt. The shape was far too different than the one Senna and ISC possessed, and yet even so the aura about its body was the exact same. It was too sinister to be called a board. It was too unaffected to be called a sword. It possessed a pure, unadulterated savagery, one which intermingled with its destructive nobility. She held it in the air with incredible ease. Und nächste Illusion kriegen wir uns. Wird sie sicherlich freuen, kann sie mitlesen, was wir uns jetzt vorstellen. Na, das kann ja jeder werden. Where in the tiny body was she hiding that kind of strength? From the looks of... Oh, das sieht knoffig aus. From the looks of it, that thing has to weigh at least 5 kilograms. Kozupis, having literally reached the question in my head, turned to me and smiled specially. Ich glaube, an diese Delusion erinnere mich aus der Serie tatsächlich.
Hi.
Had she just said Android? What kind of anime plotline was that? Ignore me, also das ist natürlich Spaß, weil das sieht man hier an dem verschwommenen Bild. Ignoring my disbelief, Kozupis he clenched her hand into an adorable fist. Kozupis has also a maid function. Oh, scheiße. I see, that would be convenient. I was willing to accept that Kozupis was an android on top of everything else. That is, if she fulfilled one non-negotiable condition. For whatever reasons, I said all that very formally. Also, Jesus Christ, what did I just ask her? While I waffled on whether or not to apologize to Kozupis, cheeks turned bright red and her eyes shot downward. Holy fuck. A maid with combat abilities and the ability to perform nightly services. What kind of hierarchy is this? She came enhanced with perhaps too many optional features. Japanese technology is the best in the world. Okay. While I was having that idiotic delusion, Kobe waltzed around the store like she owned the place, her footsteps light and bouncy. She didn't even attempt to try and hide her sword from the other people around her, acting as if it were the most normal thing in the world. It had been the same with Senna. She had also been lugging around a gigantic sword in the middle of Shiba with no regard to the people around her. Kozupis was way too calm. Both her and Senna really were crazy. And what I remembered was the smell of blood. Kapiert das jetzt? I remembered the scene of the Dukanes lying down in a pool of blood. So they really were dead. No. Cocky roaches? I could feel pretty clearly where Kozupis' mind was when there was not a trace of malice within her. She just wanted to take revenge on the bad people who had wronged her, and I didn't think there was anything inherently wrong with that. This girl honestly seems pretty twisted, I bet in a different way than me. Kozupis began to walk, her gigantic D-Sort still in hand. She was pretty short and her arms were really thin. She didn't look like she could even lift a feather. And yet, despite all these things, she didn't show any signs of her sword weighing her down. In fact, her steps were light and springy. I covered my eyes again. Der Gedanke, der mir gerade kam, wenn sie da jetzt mit der Hand abrutscht, kann sie sich ihre eigene Hand damit abtrennen. I covered my eyes again and again each time the tip of the sword nearly collided with passing customers or products. On display, miraculously though, it didn't end up hitting anything. When we then arrived at the staircase, it was dimly lit, and unlike the rest of the floor, there was no sign of anyone around. No one even approached the area. I didn't expect to find such a desolated spot inside Raft, a ridiculously popular store, especially since it was only a 5-minute walk from Shibuya Station. You only moved here a few weeks ago, and I've been living here for almost 2 years. How exactly did you know about this? But I didn't. Kozupis, seemingly in a good mood, sat down on the steps. She then laid her D-sword down on the floor. I had a pain in my side that was becoming unbearable, so I decided to take a break as well for the time being. A big salamander. What in the world are you talking about? Okay. Oh, you mean that? Yeah, I've experienced that before. When I was looking from the perspective of the old-front rooftop, I saw something. I saw a diesel blending into the scenery. Ding dong. Ham pom pom. How did you actually get your hands on it? In the end, I found my sword, but I couldn't take it, no matter how hard I tried to reach for it. I couldn't grab hold of it. You wished for it? Like, the what? That you could have it? But if that's what you did, then I did the same thing. Stopping my thoughts in its tracks, Kozupis looked up at me and shook her head faintly. Psycho! Her inner voice echoed clearly in my head. I hadn't misheard her. She had said it very clearly. Kozupis wished to kill, and she had been beaming as she said that. The stairs leading up from the 5th floor to the 6th were very quiet, with only the faintest background music leaking from the restaurant. Neither one of us said a word. The sound of someone breathing entered my ears. Was it hers? No, it was my own. A staircase where no one would ever approach. A blind spot in the heart of Shibuya, a pocket of air. I swallowed back my saliva in an attempt to wet my increasingly dry throat. And then what happened? What did you do after that?
じゃ半殺しにするのが精一杯だったのです。
This girl, it's like she is broken.
壊れてないよ。プンプン。ここに剣あるもん。
The way she gazed lovingly at the sword resting beside her, I could tell that she had absolute faith in it. Something he had told me as well. Would I have to become this broken in order to get my hands on a D-sword? Was I still not broken to begin with?
この剣が怖くて仕方なかった。
Oh, ich glaube, jetzt kommt Kozupis background. That was what Oya Kozu had thought before she came to Tokyo. But now it was different. Now it had become something very important, something entirely irreplaceable to her. The sword, if I have it, then I won't be afraid. The sword will protect me. The sword is my heart, another me. It had been about 3 weeks ago when she had first begun to think so. Ever since she was a child, Kozu had the ability to hear the inner voices present in other people's heads. As to when she had first become aware of it, she could no longer remember. I must be crazy, I must be really sick. This thought pervaded her mind as she sought to understand. Even though she was very young at the time, Kozu knew that her power was something no one could know about. Thus she concealed it from her parents. Her powers rendered her unable to make friends, forged a rift between her and her family, and made it that people around her think she was merely a girl with ridiculous intuition, one that gave them the creeps. Even when she came to Shibuya, she had still been afraid to go to school. She did not want to meet anyone new, nor talk to anyone. She thought that they would just be creeped out by her no matter what she did. She did not go to school on the day she was first supposed to, nor the next day, or even the day after, instead choosing to wander about Shibuya during the morning. There was no doubt that Kozu's parents had been notified by the school, as the staff must have noticed that Kozu had been absent without prior notice, and yet her parents had said nothing to her. It would be understandable for people to mistake her for a middle school student, but unlike the countryside where she had used to reside, there was no one around to rebuke her as such when she walked the streets on weekday mornings. It had been several days since she had first begun wandering around Shibuya. In that time she had found a place to relax, the stairs within the local loft. It had become routine for her to sit there and stare off into peace. This routine remained true on that day as well, and after spending nearly 4 hours there, evening broke, and she left Roth to return home. Raindrops fell from the dark grey sky. Kozu did not have an umbrella, and yet without looking up at the sky, nor once fretting about getting wet, she timidly stepped out into the rain. At the very moment something entered her field of view. The world is ending. A sign with that message written upon it, sodden by the rain, the handwriting had blurred. The person holding the sign was a lone, lifeless, homeless man, sitting on the side of the road under the pouring rain. His head hung downward, so that no one could see his face. Perhaps he was dead. That person, seeing him as though it were a mirror image of herself sitting on the stairs, Kozu kissed her stride. For just a moment she hesitated. He was a stranger, a homeless man she had never seen before, coming to Tokyo. Just the mere sight of him brought a feeling of revulsion. If I talk to him, what if something terrible happens to me? Such anxieties pervaded Kozu's mind. But what was far stronger than that anxiety was Kozu's strong urge to kill the man. It was an all too sudden impulse, one that struck Kozu with the feeling that if she went through with it, she would be killing herself as well. And so, after hesitating for one moment longer, Kozu sent the man the voice of her heart. The man's shoulders twitched. He was not dead. Slowly he raised his head. His cloudy eyes peeking out from between sodden banks looked up at Kozu. Kozupis' eyes widened slightly in surprise, not at the fact that he had just confirmed the word was angry, but that the man had replied at all. She had not been expecting a reply. The person to whom she would send her inner voice to would rarely respond well. Instead, they would face immense confusion, write it off as an auditory illusion, or shudder in terror before walking away with her peers. Even if she did succeed in communication with them, it was difficult for the other party to send back a reply in an orderly manner. People's thoughts were far too chaotic and disorderly. And yet the man's expression did not change. He had simply answered Kozupis' question with an incredibly short response. The heart Kozupis felt through the man's voice was laden with a deep sadness. To her, it almost felt as if his heart was shedding tears.
君は剣を持っているね。
どうしてわかるの？
君のような子を他にも知っているから。
Ich sag mal, also ich bin mir da nicht mehr sicher bei dem Ganzen, aber sieht denn nicht einer gewissen Person ähnlich aus? Also hat er nicht Ähnlichkeiten zu einer gewissen anderen Person? Kozupis raised her hands above her head and withdrew her sword for where she stood. She thrust the end of the blade towards the man.
この剣が見えるの？
見えないよ。
じゃあどうしてわかるの？
おじさんが悪い人だからだよ。すまない。
どうして謝るの？
おじさんのせいなんだ。
どうしておじさんのせいなの？
忠告しかできないから。動き出してしまったから。もうおじさんには止める術がないから。
じゃあおじさんを殺せばコズピーは悪くなくなるの？
その剣は君を殺す者にも守る者にもなる。思い出してごらん。空を見れば雲が、川を見れば流れが、そこにあったはず。それと同じこと。その剣はいつも君のそばにあった。自分自身の心を見てごらん。そこにあるのがその剣なんだよ。
でも殺したいって願ったらこれが手元にあったんだよ。この剣はコズピーとコズピーの周囲にあるあらゆるものを殺すためのものじゃないの？
負の感情は否定されるものじゃない。人が誰しも持つものだからね。特別じゃないんだ。どう向き合うかだよ。目をそらしてはいけない。自分を否定してはいけない。世界は共造。君の心の中にある性は同時に負となりうるし、その逆もまた可能。世界が終わるのか生き続けるのか、それを選べるのは君たちだけなんだ。
In the end, Kozupis had not killed the man. The urge had, for some reason or another, ceased to be as the man spoke to her. She did not expressly understand the meaning of the man's words, but even still, she thought long and hard before eventually arriving at a single conclusion. The sword is me. If I look at it and don't deny it, it will save me. And for that reason, Kozupis fully cast her faith in her sword. I tilted my head, having just listened to Kozupis' story. Who the hell was that man she had kept talking about? The homeless guy carrying around a sign. Come to think of it, I felt like I had seen him around a few times too. Was it the same guy? What I didn't get though So, was why some random bum knew so much about these thoughts? Or was I the odd one out? Maybe these thoughts were actually huge in Japan's pop culture, and I'd just been living under a rock or something. Nope. Fat chance. I glanced over at Kozupis. Her face was so calm and peaceful, it was hard to believe that she ever blurted out psycho things like wanting to kill people. She gently glided her fingers over the surface of her D
そうい
sword.
えばあのおじさん別れ際にこんなこと言ってたのら。君たちは特別な存在だ。中でも一番特別なのはその目、誰の目を産み落とした少年。
As the boy who birthed whose eyes are
欲
those
しいんだ
eyes.
って。
I didn't know what to say. What the hell?
西条くん、心当たりあるの？
いや別に。
嘘ら。心は正直なんだよ。西条くんは今ものすごく関係ありますって考えてる。
Oh god damn it, this is exactly what I was talking about. It sucks trying to think when she's listening to every thought I have.
なんか怖い顔になってる。その目、誰の目って西条くんが最初に考えたの？
I bit my lips and stood up. My nosebleed had stopped, so I pulled out the tissue crammed into my nose. Kozupis tilted her head as she looked up
ど
at
こ
me.
へ？
I'm going home. Even though my sides were still killing me, I ignored the escalators and elevators and took the stairs down to the first floor instead. It was easier to dodge the crowds and make my way outside that way. Teary-eyed Kozupis timidly followed behind me. Oh, puppy.
コズピー、
Umsis.
何か怒らせるようなこと言ったかな？
I disregarded Kozupis' question. I was too focused on trying to sort out the thoughts in my head. That homeless guy she had met, could he have been one of Shogun's comrades? And what the hell was up with him mentioning whose eyes are those eyes? Who had he been talking about when he said the boy who birthed whose eyes are those eyes? Me? That couldn't be right. I wasn't even close to special. Being a hero just wasn't in my blood. I mean, I couldn't even get my hands on the damn D-sword. I was just an average villager A, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Being special, no thanks, man. I would rather not have another orphan breakdown in my lifetime. So that begged the question, who was that boy? I considered the real culprit behind the new gen's case as Shogun. No way, Shogun was anything other than an old man, but his voice and body made him seem like a kid more than anything. Pretty much everything about him screamed how abnormal he was. He was someone special. 2 of the 6 current new gen cases had whose eyes are those eyes appear at the scene of the crime in some capacity. I used that phrase quite a bit, but only ever in my own head. They barely even meant anything, so what the hell were they doing in all those places? Was there an actual reason hidden in there somewhere? One that would reveal why Shogun was so persistent in coming after me? Maybe the homeless guy had some clues I could work with. I imagined he was still somewhere in the city, carrying around his cryptic sign. I should look for him. So I looked for him. Then what? I paused for a moment, then shook my head in denial of what I'd been thinking. What good would it do to look for him? It was a whole lot more likely to just put me in harm's way. For all I knew, that guy was one of Shogun's minions, only there to lure me into some horrifying trap. So if I just cruised my way over to the guy, there was a strong chance it would just trigger another quest. I didn't know if I could handle that. I was already sick to death of all the pain and terror I'd been going through lately. And my suspicions didn't end at the homeless guy. I was even suspicious of Kozupis. She didn't really have any reason to, and yet she was speaking to me with her inner voice. Why was that? Had she been under orders by Shogun to approach me just like you are, with her really unsettling stance on both attempt an actual murder, it was very possible she was an accomplice in New Gen. After all, the mayhem at O-Front Remy had just up and vanished, and I hadn't heard a word from her since. Then Iris had been hospitalized after her attempted suicide. Nanami was fine, but the two people on my side had still completely disappeared on me. Was there any guarantee Remy would ever come back? For starters, was she really just taking time off from school? Granted, I only knew that because Kozupis had told me. And I had no way of knowing if she was lying or not. All my hair stood up on end, howling at me that something was off. In the end, me and my world were all too empty, hollow. There was nothing left to believe in, nothing that didn't seem like a lie.
それは被害妄想なのら。
Kozupis was standing right behind me. Her inner voice was as carefree as always. Her brutal-looking D-sword sat uncomfortably in both her hands as she carried it around. Then she cast an upward glance at me. I averted my eyes. Are you my ally or my enemy? Which is it? Did you come here to kill me?
コズピはただ
Just what? Kozupis suddenly yelped in excitement. Started my head jolted upward only to realize it wasn't me she was looking at, nor the person she was waving to. Senna-chan? Wait a second, tracing the end of Kozupis' gaze, sure enough.
小杖か
It was always Senna, with a D-sword to her shoulder. As she walked towards us, her expression made it clear that her mood was just as sore as ever. I reflexively tensed up. What's Senna doing here? Is it just another coincidence, or is it a calculated trap? Do the two know each other? If they did Kozupis call her here? Are the two of them here to kill me?
だからそれは被害妄想だよ。
Yeah, but what's safe to believe in? Also, it is true that no matter how many times I've run into Senna, she has never tried to attack me. But that doesn't mean she's my ally. Besides, she's scary as hell.
皆さんは怖くないよ。
I could really go without the commentary.
怖い何のことだ
As I'd figured, Senna could hear Kozupis' inner voice too.
なんでもないです。
Kozupis simply bathed in the lights as I bumbled about. Facing the ground, she gently grasped the hem of Senna's clothes and smiled bashfully. The two were such an amusing combination, I felt stupid for getting so nervous. They are just like sisters. One the strong and firm older sister, the other the younger, more timid sister who loves her sibling more than anything. And on top of that, both of them have small breasts, so make a freaking good job there, nature. Wait, shit, chill out. What a cool thing reads my mind again. If I'm not careful, I could easily die here. How are those two related anyway? Are they classmates? Maybe not, since they're in different grades and all. Is there something connecting the swords of people who have swords? Or are the two of them Shogun's underlings? I put myself in the cat stance in case I had to escape at a moment's notice. What that specifically entailed was standing with my heels raised off the ground that would allow me to speed away like a cat if the need arose. Maybe, I don't know. I'd seen it in some manga forever ago.
セナさんはね、コズピーが東京に来てから最初のお友達なのら。
Rather than answering, Senna merrily glared at me. I had figured she was about to lunge at me with that sword of hers, but that never happened. Calling her scary hadn't seemed to have pissed her off to that extent at least.
小杖どうしてこいつと
たくみちゃんはクラスメートです。
Takumi-chan?
たくみちゃんはコズピーの剣が見えるんだよ。
それを知っているこいつもギガロマニアックスだ
Gigolo what now?
リゾードが見える人のこと。
That's someone who can see these
たくみちゃんも
swords.
そうだよ。
a gigalomaniac? Who in the world decided to name it that? Given it has a name at all, then maybe these powers aren't all that uncommon.
セナさんはガルガリ君買いに行くとこなんですね。
それは
Oh, from the sounds it could be read Senna's mind. Aber ich würde sagen, an dem Punkt beende ich jetzt hier erstmal diese Folge. Senna und Cosi zusammen als Duo. Das ist eine geile Nummer. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal.